This week I was in Venice, and even though I'm not Catholic, I had to go to Basilica di San Marco. This is wonderful monumental church with golden mosaics all over the place. And of course I asked myself the question, why do people do this? Even though in all probabilities there was never a real winged lion delivering a prophecy, why does it feel so necessary? And the conclusion I came to is that art is like religion, but better. Okay. First of all, why do we build temples? It is because religion does something that logic cannot do. It organizes anxiety. Us humans have the tendency to ask ourselves existential questions. What's the purpose of my life? Why am I here? What happens after death? Or what does this all mean? And during millennia, religion has given us answers to these questions that we can't seem to avoid. And these answers have kept societies, cultures, and civilizations functioning during very, very long time. That's why it is important to give it its due place and to recognize its function and to transmit also these answers. So all of the art, all of the architecture that has been done in its name, etc., etc. But what about those of us who do not have a religion in the modern world? I grew up in an atheist environment, and for all of my youth, God was not a part of my vocabulary. Religion was at best an illusion, and at worst maybe some sort of mass manipulation tool. But something happened when I was 23 years old. I started to pursue art as a profession, do it seriously. I started to meet people that was really working on cinema, that were professionals, they were making a living of it. And I was preparing myself for that. And something changed in me because of the practice that I can only describe as spiritual. You know, it was not the change of perception, it was not belief, it's sort of dissolution of the ego. The clearest memory that I have of that, it's that every day we would meditate, and I didn't even know that was meditation. I was just doing, I was doing what I was told to do. We would go to this room, lay on the floor or sit down with our eyes closed, focus on our breathing, and it gave me sensations and the practice of it. And then I was living in Vancouver, Canada, and by the end of the day I was walking by the beach, so I stood there with my feet on the sand and I looked at the sunset. You know, the sun hiding behind the sea. And it was there for the first time where I had this feeling that it was all one. I was a part of something bigger than me, that I was everything. I realized that through looking inside of me, I could sort of see the infinite that I was looking at. I had the feeling that what started right at my feet on the sand would eternally go all the way to the sunset and the stars and go back all the way around. And it changed my life. It shook me, of course. And now I realized I didn't understand exactly what it was, but now I understand that art gives to people, me included, 5 things that religion gives as well. Number 1, meaning making or creation of meaning. I don't love these words, the universe has a plan, but I understand why people say that. I understand that if you are part of everything, that this chaos is interacting everything, with all of it, the universe has its way of working things. It has some sort of mechanics to it, let's say. And I understand that through what I see every day in stories, in images, in all of that. Just like religious people feel that their life has meaning because they are part of God's plan. Number 2, ritual. So when you are a professional artist, for me, I started in theater, so I had to rehearse, and I had to rehearse every day, and it was very important, and I missed a lot of parties and games and all of that because I had to rehearse. The same way painters do that, and writers, they write every day, and you give sort of a ritualistic meaning to it because you stop everything and you give it its importance. Quentin Tarantino, for example, famously doesn't allow mobile phones on set because it's important. And it doesn't happen only with professional artists. Also, if you go to a museum, well, you do that. If you go to the movies, you sit and you do nothing but watch the movie. If you listen to music, you put your headphones or just sit and listen to music. So you give it its importance. Number 3, community. For me, well, when I started to go to acting school, I started to talk to people that was more like me, that had the same goals that me, which wasn't the case before, that understand life in the same way that I understood it. But it's not only that. Also, that happens with audiences. It happens when you go to theater, and we all go and are there for the same reason. Movies, concerts, we all unite in community to enjoy the same music, etc. Number 4, transcendence. And this is very important because there's 2 ways that art gives us transcendence. 1, the aesthetic experience suspends time. When you're looking at something just for the joy of it, or listening to it, or feeling it, time doesn't count in the same way that it counts on the rest of your life. It can either go faster or you can just stop, but for sure, admiring a piece of art changes your perception of time. And the second way is that if you do art, this art will transcend through time. Hopefully, if you make a movie, people will be watching your movie a long time after your death. Or if you write a book, people will read your book even though you're not there. And number 5, myth creation. Of course, today we have our modern mythology the same way that the Greeks, the Romans, the Egyptians had their mythologies. For example, Captain America was American propaganda, but it was a myth that was given meaning to what people was living at the time. Star Wars was, for its first 25 years, a mythology. Now it's more like a merchandising machine. That's another story. But it doesn't have to be you know, sci-fi or fantasy. Fight Club, for example, is a myth, and David Fincher has clearly said that it's about killing the Buddha. But this, of course, is not something that I thought or I invented. In his book, The Dance of Reality, La Danza de la Realidad, Alejandro Jodorowsky speaks about the power that symbolic acts have to transform our unconscious. And he even applies it in his practice of psychomagic. Psychomagic is described as acts that one must perform that carry metaphorical solution to one's emotional problems. And I know it's very controversial, but by the end, it's a mix of Jungian psychology and theater. Because as I said in my last video, Carl Jung said that symbols are the language of our unconscious, and religion understood that intuitively very long time ago. And today, psychology supports that, because there is a very serious and scientific practice of what is called art therapy or drama therapy. And people go there, and through artistic practice, they reinterpret, reorganize, and solve emotional struggle. So where am I going with all of this? Well, there is one key difference between art and religion. Religion is dogmatic. It imposes you the answer. Art is gonna demand from you to build it together. It's gonna ask your participation. But that's what's great about it, is that you don't have to blindly believe in it. It's something that allows you to build your own cosmology and your own understanding of the world according to your experience, and without the dependency of a high priest that can abuse his power. So that's my thought. That's why I think art is even better than religion. Let me know what you think. Put in the comments if you had some artistic, spiritual experience, and hope to see you in the next video.